Hello, my name is Suzanne Heggie. I'm here to talk to you today about what happens, or some of the things that happen, when you turn 18 and become an adult. But let me give you a little background about myself. I've been a lawyer for 34 years. I currently work and have for the past 28 years at the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals. I write opinions and orders in criminal matters. But that's what I do. That's not who I am. I am many things at any given point in time. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a grandmother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. I teach upholstery class in the evenings. I am a lector and a Eucharistic minister at church. I volunteer, I mediate cases, I do lots of things. All of that to say is that you can expect, as an adult, that you will experience the same thing. At any given point in time, you will wear many different hats on many different occasions. And I will tell you, it's not unusual as an adult to put on the wrong hat at the wrong time. So the hard thing about being an adult is understanding that you don't know everything and that you're not going to know everything. But the good thing about being an adult is knowing that there are people out there who can help you, there are resources you can access, and especially today, you can find answers to any questions that you need the answers to. There are numerous resources online, which are not always accurate, but you have available resources to you in many ways. You have parents, you have teachers, you have mentors, and all of these are available to help you becoming an adult. So let's talk about some of the things that become important when you become an adult and why they are important. Right now, I'm going to assume that the majority of you live at home and that your parents take care of your situation. They take care of where you live, where you go to the doctor, when you go to the dentist, what you eat, your transportation, they pay your bills. All of these things become your responsibility when you turn 18. There are some good things about being 18, meaning you're an adult. There are lots of things that happen. You've got some new rights. What are some of those? Well, you can vote in federal and state elections. You can marry without your parents' consent. You can make a will. You can get medical treatment without your parents' consent. You can be an organ donor by indicating that on your license if you want to. You can apply to join the military. And you have a 1-year window to petition the court to reopen a civil judgment when made against you when you were a minor. Just some random things. What are some of your new responsibilities? Your parents are no longer legally responsible for you. You can be held to a contract. You can be sued. You can be legally responsible for your own actions. You actually are legally responsible for your own actions. You can be tried as an adult or if you are accused of any crime. And you can be called to serve on jury duty. If you're a male, you must register with a selective service within 30 days after turning 18. A lot of this seems so foreign to you, and it is because you have not had to deal with these situations before. Think to yourself, have I ever made my own doctor's appointment? If you haven't, when you turn 18, your parents can no longer do it for you because there's a law called HIPAA, which prohibits them from accessing your medical information without your permission. So understand that once you turn 18, you are responsible for your medical care in terms of providing information to your doctor, making your own appointments, and doing those types of things. While those things can seem scary, they're really just everyday things that you must learn to do as an adult, and it's part of becoming an adult. So let's start with some of the first things you need to do. This is kind of timely because we're in the election cycle, but the first thing you need to do is register to vote. You turn 18, you register. It's your responsibility, it's your obligation, and you have no one to blame if you don't register but yourself. And if you want to participate in how your life goes and what decisions are made concerning how your money's spent in the public sector, then you register to vote and you exercise that right whenever the opportunity presents itself. If you are a male, you are required to register for the selective service when you turn 18, and you have to do so within 30 days. Now, some of you might think, yeah, I don't really have to do that, but you really do. You can register online. You can get the forms at the post office. But regardless, you have to register for the Selective Service. And if you don't, there are consequences to not registering. It's a crime if you fail to register for the Selective Service when you turn 18, if you're a male. You can be assessed a $250,000 fine and have to serve up to 5 years in prison. You are ineligible for federal jobs. You're ineligible for federal student loans or grants. You're ineligible for citizenship, and you're ineligible for job training programs. Now, if you've turned 18 and 30 days have passed, don't panic. There is a window, but you do need to go online and register for the Selective Service. When you turn 18, there are also lots of other things that become available to you. Before you're 18, you're considered, you're considered a minor, but you're also considered unable to enter into a contract. Contract means an agreement between two parties where you both agree to provide services or goods in exchange for money or other compensation. So part of those include almost everything you do is a contract. If you buy a car, if you get a phone, if you rent an apartment, if you lease a vehicle, if you go to the doctor's office and agree to pay the doctor bill, all of those are contracts, and you can be held legally responsible for those once you turn 18. There are also other complications that arise when you turn 18, most of them unforeseen, because everything you do every day can result in a legal consequence. And people don't consider that when they're interacting in their daily lives. So when you turn 18, you become responsible for your actions, including any children you might have as a result of a marriage, or as a result outside of marriage. You become responsible for paying for those children's raising and for paying child support. And there are consequences if you do not live up to those responsibilities. Did you know, and this is one of my favorite lists, that the state can take away your hunting and or fishing license if you don't pay your court-ordered child support? Did you know if you have a juvenile or youthful offender record, it does not automatically go away once you reach the age of 18? If you commit certain crimes as a minor, you could still be prosecuted and or sentenced as an adult. If you delete something from your phone or other electronic device, it can almost always be retrieved. Employers and colleges routinely examine your social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, etc., to reject requests for employment, scholarships, and college admissions. If you are convicted of a felony, you lose the right to vote, own or possess a gun, serve on a jury, travel abroad, employment in certain fields, public and social benefits and housing, and parental rights. All of your actions have consequences, and you are held legally accountable for them. I mention this because most of what I do, or the majority of what I do as a lawyer, deals with criminal convictions. And many of them have to deal with juveniles specifically, and those who are right on the cusp of becoming an adult. Children who are 17 years old at the time, but soon to be 18. I like to refer to this as the law of unintended consequences. In my line of work, I read criminal cases, I read transcripts. And one of the things I hear most often is, I didn't know that that was going to be the consequence. Unfortunately, the consequence still applies whether you know it or not. So what I think it is important for you to understand is that your actions do have consequences. So those of you who are planning to go to college, to enter a certain profession, to go into a trade, to do anything, you need to understand that the consequences of your actions are going to follow you, and they will follow you for a long time. Many of them will follow you for your entire life. So I'm going to talk to you about some things that can happen if you're convicted of a crime, specifically if you're convicted of a felony. A felon cannot vote during the time of their sentence. They can't sit on a jury. They can't run for public office within 15 years of completing their sentence. They can't be state employed. They can't bear arms. And possibly you might not be allowed to have a driver's license. Also, as a felon, your travel is restricted and you have to report most times to a probation officer where you live, where you work, and what you are doing at any given point in time. Basically, you give up your right to privacy. A felon may never become a corporate director, a bank officer, an executor or administrator of an estate, a liquor dealer, a funeral director, a surveyor, a physical therapist, a chiropractor, an official shorthand reporter, a realtor, or a bondsman. A felon may just as well forget the professions of law, architecture, accounting, engineering, medicine, dentistry, electrologist, pharmacy, psychology, veterinary science, real estate appraisal, occupational therapy, marriage and domestic counseling, osteopathy, nursing, and cosmetology, as well as employment in such fields as a pawnbroker, a polygraph examiner, a security guard, or in the security alarm industry. Do you see where I'm going with this? Furthermore, in many parts of the United States, a convicted felon can face other long-term legal consequences, regardless of where their conviction occurred. Such consequences which persist long after the end of imprisonment include disenfranchisement, exclusion from obtaining certain licenses such as a visa or a professional license required in order to legally operate, an ineligibility to adopt or to have foster children, an exclusion from the purchase and possession of firearms, ammunition, and body armor, the inability to serve on a jury, ineligibility for government assistance or welfare, ineligibility for federally funded student loans, inability to receive federally funded housing, and deportation if the criminal is not a citizen. Additionally, most job applications and rental applications ask about felony history. Furthermore, dishonest answers will usually result in denial or termination if discovered after the fact. It is legal to discriminate against felons in hiring decisions as well as the decision to rent housing, and as such, felons face barriers to finding both jobs and housing. Moreover, a common condition of parole is that convicted felons must avoid associating with other felons. People often think, well, I won't ever get convicted of a felony. Okay, you might not, but the actions that you might engage in, you might not even know are felonious. So my suggestion to you is that you think twice before you enter into any action which might result in a consequence that will subject you to any of these penalties. I also would encourage you to temper what you post. By that I mean, people seem to have a sense of anonymity when they post something on a public website, when they post it on Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok. They think, well, it's no big deal. I'm basically anonymous. Well, you aren't. And you can be held legally responsible for the things that you post. Specifically, I would encourage you to think long and hard about posting anything that you might not want to follow you around. Because despite assurances that if you delete something, no one can recover it, I assure you that is absolutely not true. Specifically, my advice is this. If you don't want your grandmother to see it, then don't post it. For those of you out there who think that, I guess this is kind of an indelicate situation, but I'm going to deal with it anyway. The posting of naked pictures of yourself or of others. If you are under the age of 18 and you post a nude or partially nude picture of yourself, it's considered child pornography. If you send it to someone who asks you to send it to them, then they are in possession of child pornography. Both of you have now committed a crime, and if you are convicted of those offenses, you will have to register as a sex offender for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter if you consented. It doesn't matter if you thought it was okay. It doesn't matter if your parents said you could do it. The bottom line is the law says that you cannot. If you are over the age of 18 and you post a picture of someone who is under the age of 18, a nude picture of them, you then are responsible for distributing child pornography. Again, a felony. It doesn't matter what your intentions were. It doesn't matter if someone agreed to it. The bottom line is it's a crime and you will be convicted of it. And then you will be a felon and have to register as a sex offender. So my suggestion is this. If your significant other requests that you send a naked picture of yourself to him or her or to whoever, then find yourself another significant other. The bottom line is that the consequences of your actions follow you long after you think that they might. So I will tell you that things are not as bleak as they seem. There's a lot of help available out there for you. The state of Oklahoma has a legal aid society, which you can access online, and they will provide you with lots of answers to basic questions, including how do I rent a house, how do I get credit, how do I make sure that I am covered under insurance. All of those things are basically, I would say, standard questions that they get all of the time. If you have a question that requires more in-depth analysis, then you can also call legal aid and they can help you with the questions that you need answered. Overall, there are lots of resources available to you. Becoming an adult is a great thing, but it also requires that you exercise some discretion, that you pay attention to what you're doing, and that you be willing to accept the consequences of the actions that you take. Thanks.